Hey bosses, this is Ella, and I just wanted to give you a heads up that towards the end of this interview, we get a little bit vulnerable, a little bit tender. It definitely touches on a couple of my tender spots, but I wanted to reaffirm our commitment here at Author Like a Boss to fostering creativity and doing everything that we do with as much love and joy as possible. So with that heads up, enjoy.
But there's a beauty in us being unique. So there was a point where I had to realize that it was not about them. My writing journey was not about them, and my relationship with God was not about them. It was about me and my relationship with Heavenly Father. And that's what it boils down to. It has absolutely nothing to do with what other people think about me or about my hobby, and has everything to do with my family and my relationship with my Heavenly Father.
Welcome to the Author Like a Boss podcast, the podcast for indie authors who want to improve their writing, up-level their marketing, make money with their books, and have fun doing it. Now, onto the show with your host, Ella Barnard.
Hey bosses, if you have an author website or are thinking about getting one, I have a special offer for you. Stacy Sowers of Authors Mojo builds websites, is a technology coach for indie authors, and is my co-author for the book Build Your Author Website. She's also an indie author herself, which makes this so exciting. For listeners of this podcast, Stacy is offering a free author website consultation. If you already have a website and want some feedback for improving it, she'll do a comprehensive evaluation of your site. If you don't yet have a website, but are thinking about taking that next step, she'll walk you through what you need to know to have a beautiful and effective author website. To take advantage of this offer and get a free author website consultation, go to authorlikeaboss.com/mojo. Hello, author bosses. We are here today with Adell Ryan. So Adell Ryan is a hubby-wife pseudonym. Adell writes unconventional love stories about fierce women and their numerous male suitors. Because let's be honest, we need more than one to satisfy our multi-dimensional needs, right? Ryan simply puts up with Adell's crazy fantasies and toots her horn regularly. Occasionally, he'll add in a shoulder pat and a deep, sexy, "Damn, that's good stuff." In addition to being a writer, she is also a professional photographer, graphic designer, and homeschooling mother of 3 boys. Welcome to Author Like a Boss, Adell.
Hello. I'm excited to be here with you today.
I'm really excited to have you here. And I know that my impression of your hubby wasn't good because I realized later that he's from the South. So I had no accent in there whatsoever.
You did a really good job. I might need to ask you to read my bio more often because I'm pretty sure you did it better than I would have ever done it.
It's easier when it's not you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump in, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your author journey?
Absolutely. My author journey more or less starts back in August of 2017 when we went on a trip to Disney World. It was a magical time and one of the most amazing experiences we've ever had as a family. And on the way home, we decided to get a puppy to add to our family. Mm-hmm. So we went to the pet store and we got us a cute little Cocker Spaniel and we named him Cooper, and we went home. And within days, I came down with a terrible illness, and weeks passed. We couldn't figure out what was going on, but I was actually slowly degrading. It was not good. Multiple trips to the ER. And then come to find out much later, I had contracted an infectious disease from the dog.
What?
Yes.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either, but it was weird. It was almost like my intuition was telling me that was the case all along. And I remember the dog was sick as well, and we took him into the vet. And I asked the vet directly, can humans get illnesses from dogs? And he said, no, it's not very likely. In other words, there was obviously
it was like a question mark. There. Right.
Yeah. But no, not really. And so it kind of shook our family to discover that we had gotten this illness that changed our lives dramatically from the puppy that we got. And then from there forth, a series of things happened in our lives. The puppy did end up dying, unfortunately. And then one thing after another hit our family during the course of the year, including me getting swarmed by bees, which is a story in and of itself. It's funny now.
What? I know.
Was not funny then.
No, I'm like imagining, like Looney Tunes, where it's like, where you're like, find a river.
It was crazy. My husband does work with bees. Well, he did before Hurricane Michael, which I'll mention here in just a little bit. But it was after my illness. I was still in recovery. It took months to recover, but I hadn't been exercising. And so I was very, very weak. And he went out to work on the bees. And I said, I'm going to walk to you. And then you can drive me back. That way I'm not overdoing it, walking all the way out there and walking back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the perfect setup. So I walked out there, handled it really well. I got within probably, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 feet from him. And I hollered at him and I said, I'm going to stop here because it looks like you made them mad.
Mm-hmm.
And he has his whole bee suit on, so he's not worried about it, and yeah, totally fine. And he's just waving at me like, hey, honey, and I'm like, okay, I'm staying over here. And I have never in my life been stung by a bee. And my dad is allergic, and so is my grandmother. And so I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen to me. I'm going to stay far away from them. And here comes this one bee, and it's angry buzzing. Their angry buzz sounds different, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Than their normal buzz. And I'm like, it's flying around my head. And I'm like, what do I do? You're not supposed to make jerky movements and stuff. But it goes to, I guess, dive bomb me. And I toss my phone up in the air, just like out of shock, I guess.
Oh, no.
And my phone lands on the ground on top of the bee.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, well, hey, that's good because I didn't get stung. And then I holler at Ryan and I'm like, on your way back, get my phone because I'm not going to pick it up. There's a bee under it. And so I just leave it there. And I regret to this day not just stepping on my phone. I was trying to be nice to the creature.
Oh,
I
no.
didn't really want to kill it. Well, it made its way out and immediately stung me, it stung me in the cheek. And little did I know, they send out a pheromone or something
that tells all the other bees.
Yes, that tells all the other bees.
No.
And so here they come. And here I go. I'm running. I am running, and there's one in my shirt, so I'm taking my shirt off. I mean, it was like something out of a movie. And
Except it wasn't a movie. It was real.
Yes, it was real.
How many bee stings?
I ended with, I think it was 6 bee stings, which I guess isn't bad in the big scheme of things. But I was so mad. I was so angry that it happened. So I killed them all because, I tapped into my ninja skills or something because I was fighting for my life. And I killed one on my leg and I killed one in my hair. I mean, I remember bending over and taking my ponytail out and slapping my hair. And I crushed one in my shirt and I stepped on one. And so eventually I had killed that little bee's posse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just walking, like I wouldn't stop. I started walking away and my fists were clenching and then the moistness in the eyes happened, the angry kind,
mm-hmm.
not the I'm sad and hurt kind. Oh no. And it was funny because during all that, my husband, he saw it all and he tried to throw me something to use and it made it like 2 feet from him and 50 feet from me. And I'm like, that is not helpful.
Not useful.
He felt so bad because he couldn't help me because if he would to have approached, they were on him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he was already covered in bees, so it would have brought more bees.
Yeah, so he was stuck.
Oh, that's like the worst feeling for a guy. Oh, they hate that so much. Okay, So tell me how this puppy this is crazy. This is crazy, Adell, but tell me how the puppy illness and the bee stings and everything contributed to your now writing.
Yeah. So I had come up with, I've always been creative, I guess you can say, with the photography and business building, things like that I wrote here and there as a child growing up, and I just never thought much of it. And I would say about 7 years ago now, we were at a friend's house and we were talking about the government and to an extent their invasiveness, and I had gotten this idea in my head about that. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I had gotten this idea in my head, and I kind of went home and I mind mapped it. And then I looked at it and I was like, I'm not a writer, and so I put it down and it sat in a notebook for over a year. And then after I'd gotten sick, I fell back on reading, because reading is such a wonderful escape.
Oh my gosh. Amen.
And all these things. Yeah. And all these things in my life were happening, even more so than the bee sting and the puppy issue. I really needed to escape, and I needed to escape frequently. And I really enjoyed reading paranormal romance. Well, I was trying to find some paranormal romance books, and I ended up stumbling on a book titled Trickery. And it's the first book in the Curse of the Gods series by Jaime Eve and Jane Washington. And I did not know what the reverse harem genre was. I didn't even know what it was after I read this book. It was before the subsequent books were released. It was just the first one. But what I did know was that I absolutely enjoyed reading about these 5 swoony men all doting on one extremely lucky lady.
Just to touch, Trickery, like I grew up reading, I didn't grow up like when I was a kid, but in college and beyond, reading Laurel K. Hamilton, and they didn't call it reverse harem then. It was just Laurel K. Hamilton, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, so many guys. But so Trickery was my first book that I read, like resurgence in like that kind of reverse harem, and I probably have read it like 20 times because I loved it so much. It's such a good book.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And so after that, I was thinking, I need more of whatever this is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but somehow I'm going to figure it out. And I want to find more books like that. And eventually my search led me to a very popular online, well, I say online, but Facebook community called Reverse Harem Readers. And then the rest is kind of history. I fell into one book after another. And and then I woke up one morning and I was like, that idea that I had, I know what was missing. A number of swoony guys. And then I kind of went from there. I sat down and I just started writing that day and didn't stop.
Awesome. I love, one thing that I think people should know is that I've read your first book, and it's sci-fi reverse harem, and it's really like I think there's a big market for sci-fi reverse harem, and there's not a lot of authors writing it. So I love that you did that. Also, it's enjoyable. Also, the boys are swoony. Okay, done. Okay. So now in the bio, we said that you're writing with your husband. Now I'm really curious about how that process, like, what does he think about you writing reverse harem, and how does that process work?
I'm glad you asked that, because it's a fun story to share. He has always been very supportive of my ventures, always. And, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this on a podcast where family could hear me, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't used to write him steamy letters back in the day. So he is no stranger to my ability to write romance. And when I decided to write this book and I had told him about it, he would come home every day after work and sit down with me and he would read it. And it was amazing because these were his comments. They would be like, shut up. Oh my gosh. And then he couldn't stop reading, and he was just totally absorbed into the storyline and the characters. And a lot of my readers know that one of the characters in the book is loosely based off of him. So it's extra fun for him to read that character's scenes. But it's also funny because one of the other characters in the story, I think he likes best. He's like, I want to be cool like that character. And I'm like, well, but you're more like your character, which is also cool. So it's okay, honey. He does try to write some things. He's done a lot of research with me in the beginning, especially. His prose is very purple, though, and we joke about it all the time. But he's very, very wordy. So together, it's helpful because what I do is I'll write and add it to a document for him to view and comment on. Mm-hmm. And he will make comments on spots where he thinks more information is needed with his wordiness and my lack thereof. And in some spots where less information is needed. And so that's his primary job is to look at the manuscript as I type it and give me immediate feedback. So it's very, very useful.
Oh my gosh. You didn't see my face. Nobody could see my face while you were talking, but I was doing that like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. That face. Yeah. that was my face. And I'm like, I can't make noise during the interview because she's talking and I'm already interrupting a little bit. But man, my face was definitely like, oh my gosh, so cute.
We had an experience last night, in fact, where he was reading my manuscript and he got to a particular chapter with his favorite character. Well, I say his favorite character, but his character, mm-hmm. so to speak. And he typed in the comments, I had to stop reading and go get a drink of water because it was that hot. Of course, I'm not, he's doing this away from me. So I'm getting it on my phone and I'm just cracking up. But yeah, it's little things like that make it very easy to do with him.
Oh my gosh. Part of me really wants to know which one it is, but then part of me feels like that would be weird because I'm not like, I'm going to keep reading the books. And then I'm like, but now I know Adell and I don't know if that feel very comfortable about fantasizing about her hubby.
Well, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I've had friends message me and be like, so this is definitely your husband because they know him or family. Some of his family has read it. And I warn them in advance. But then also I send inspiration pictures that are not my husband. So that helps them too. But it is loosely based. I did have to, those characters are very much their own people. But it was just a way to use a template, so to speak, to begin the characters. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know, not exactly, but I don't want it to interfere with my enjoyment of your story where I'm like, right. Oh, this all of a sudden a thought pops up. I'm like, that was hot. And then I'm like, wait, wait. Okay. So that is so sweet. I love how supportive your husband is. He should get kudos. I almost wish he was here on the interview, but that's okay. That's okay. Next time.
Next time.
Yeah. So cute. Okay. So you started writing like it's 2019 now, but barely. But, so you started writing in 2017, like towards the end of 2017, right?
September. Yep. I got sick in August and started writing in September.
Okay. So because your books are doing fairly well. Like your books are, like you have over 100 reviews, which is a big deal on the first book. So how did you end up marketing? Like what was your marketing process? How did people find you?
I absolutely loved the beginning stages of my writing for this very reason. So first of all, within the community that I had told you guys about, the reverse harem writers community or readers community, I reached out to one of the admins at the time and said, hey, I'm really interested in writing a book in this genre. Do you have any pointers for me or any groups I can join that might help with my progress? And she said, well, are you going to independently publish? And I said, well, I don't know the difference. So let's say yes for now, because, I do like hands-on things. So I don't see why independently publishing would be an issue for me. And she says, okay, well, I have this little group and we would be happy to have you. So I joined the group, and that same day, my very first question in the group was, if I start a pseudonym, should I start it right away, or should I wait, just continue writing and everything and wait until closer to publish and then start my pseudonym? And somebody responded back right away and said, do it now. Mm-hmm. And within 10 minutes, I'd left the group, started my pseudonym on Facebook, came back in as my new name and said, hey, my name's Adell Ryan, and I am going to write a reverse harem novel. And from there, I started networking. I made sure I participated in the genre groups quite a lot. I made friends. I met new writers. I just fully involved myself. And what's nice is everybody got to follow me. All those people who I met in the very beginning got to follow my journey from being sick and knowing I was sick to actually hitting the publish button. And I wouldn't have it any other way, I don't think. I didn't do a lot of marketing or advertising. It was more socializing and networking at that point.
Mm-hmm. I think I really like that, because I think a lot of people think about marketing as like a TV commercial or something, you know, like the way they envision marketing is an ad in the paper or a TV commercial, or like, well, old school people, new school, younger people are probably like a Google ad or whatever, or even something like something else that I'm not. Like, I don't know, Tinder something. Is there ads on Tinder? I don't know, whatever. But they don't think about marketing. The point is, they don't think about marketing as just building relationships with people. And really, marketing is just building relationships with people. And that's what's so powerful about being an indie author versus like selling Coca-Cola. I mean, not the drug, the drink, is that like you can, on social media, build relationships with individuals, like individual authors, individual readers. You can build and you can share like personal things. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, but because that's what marketing is. And it's why like the best marketing is word of mouth marketing, like the best. That's what every company, every Fortune 500, that's what they want, is word of mouth marketing. And that is 100% what social media marketing is, if you're not using, besides the ads. Like if you're just building relationships, that's the start of word of mouth marketing. It's the best marketing there is. So I love, and then my second favorite point is, sorry, I'm like taking over, but I really like to emphasize this for people is women, we're really good at building relationships generally. Like it's where our strengths are. Like we're better at building not better, but we're pretty good at building relationships. And that's where I think a lot of others think, oh, I'm not good at marketing because you have to be all weird. You don't have to be like, I have to try and sell things while I'm talking to people. You don't. You just actually make friends. And that's it. So
exactly.
Do you talk a little bit about that? And because it's very vulnerable thing. I think one of the things to really build relationships is you have to make yourself vulnerable, and sharing your illness. And like, how did it come about that you're like, yeah, I'm sick and or what? Like, how did that happen?
For the most part, that particular portion of my journey was more within the writers' circles that I was in. Mm-hmm. They were uplifting me and helping me through the battle of trying to recover at the same time and experience writing for the same time, because I didn't really go into it realizing that's what I was going to do with my life. I kind of happened upon it, or writing found me, rather, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there have been a couple of times which kind of goes into the second portion of the marketing that I started with, where I would do events in my Facebook group with my readers. And during these events, I would go on live for about 10, 15 minutes and share them a personal story along with a book in the genre that had impacted me in some way. And so for most of my reader fans, they discovered my illness in one of those live sessions where I got to open up to them and become vulnerable. And that particular session was when I was explaining how trickery impacted my writing career. Mm-hmm. And that's when I explained to them that I was sick, and that was the book that I fell back on that kind of changed everything for me.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, now I'm like, I didn't know you did this. So you have a reader group now, and you do Facebook Lives with your group?
I did for a while. We're kind of changing things up. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, what I liked to do mostly when it did come to advertising was I would host takeovers in my group, and I would also participate in takeovers where an author goes into another author's group, and for an hour or something like that, we share information about ourselves and about our books.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. And there's usually games and flashy images and things to draw in the attention of potential new readers. Well, I kind of flipped that and took it into my group, but I did it as a special event each month. Or, well, I think it was 2 times a month at that point. And I called it While You Wait Wednesday. I am a slow releaser. So instead of being able to publish a book once a month, like some amazing people are able to do,
right?
My books were published with a 6-month spread. So it took 6 months between book 1 and book 2. And I wanted my readers to not forget me in between those books. So every other Wednesday, I would host a While You Wait Wednesday. While they're waiting for my book to release, I want to suggest you read this book. And I would reach out to some amazing authors and ask them to take over my group in a special event format for that Wednesday. And that's when I actually reached out, and James and Eve came into my group, which was really cool.
Oh my gosh.
And took over. Yeah.
Did you like totally fangame? I would be like, ah! Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was so thankful she did it. I had a major fear that she was going to say no. But I did that several times and chose several different authors that in one way or another impacted my journey. And so during those takeovers, that's when I would go live. I would explain why that author impacted my journey and why everybody should read the book. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun way to get new readers because, the authors would eventually share in their groups, hey, come over here, come check me out in Adell's group. And it would also send those authors business as well, which is really neat. It's a good trade-off.
Mm-hmm. How did you initially get people into your group so that you could then do that to not just like yourself and your husband and, like whoever, like a couple of people? How did you get people in your group?
Right. I love that question because there's several different ways to do it. And I'm very much anti-group abductions where people just add people, without asking or anything like that, because I want organic group members. Mm-hmm. And so for those first several months, in the takeovers, that's one very easy way to invite people to join your group. Mm-hmm. I did it that way. After my first book was published, it's at the back of my book. I do believe it's even mentioned on my Amazon author page that you can join my group. But in the very, very beginning, I reached out to my reader friends and writer friends and asked them directly, I have a new group. Would you like to be added to it? And if they said yes, I would add them. If they said no, that was okay too, because, oh my goodness, with the thousands of groups that are on Facebook, yeah, we don't have time for all of them. That is okay. But my goal is, or was, and still is, I want organic group members. I don't want somebody to be there who doesn't want to be there. And it really does help with participation and getting vulnerable in the group and different things like that.
I love that. I think, I love that you just individually ask people. I think that's marketing. How do you get people into the group? Well, you just say, do you want to be in the group? It's really complicated. It's scary. Mindset wise, it can be really scary, but it's not as scary if you already know them as friends. And you're like, hey, you're my friend. Do you want to come in my group? And they can say no.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So you have now all of these reader friends, writer, author friends, all these people that are in your life. And I wanted to touch on something that you shared with me before we started actually recording. So you have all these new friends. How was the response of your community when you started writing?
Oh, ask the hard questions. Why don't you?
I know. I really want to touch on this, though. I think it's going to help a lot of people. It would have helped me like 22 years ago.
Right.
So.
All right. Let's see here. Rubs hands together. Right. And I'll pretend like I'm typing that because you can't see me doing it.
So, so you're taking this creative thing that you're loving to do, right? Like this creative thing that you found. Do you love it? The writing?
I love it. I love it. Yes.
Okay. So you have this thing that you love, this creative, you're putting your heart in, you're sharing your vulnerability. So this is how I'm seeing this. And then you share it with your community. What happens?
So obviously in the beginning, I decided to start a pseudonym for a reason. As most authors do, we want to start a pseudonym to keep our private life private. And I am a Christian, and my books aren't necessarily so. By way of, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to get too religious or anything like that, but by way of, I guess, biblical practices. Even then, it's subjective, of course. Mm-hmm. But after I started my pseudonym, I realized it just wasn't in my character to keep secrets. I'm a very open person. I love other people. I love my friends. I love my family. And the fact that I was keeping a secret began to weigh on me more than the fact that I was writing romance. So I decided to reach out to a couple of one close friend and a group that I was a part of at the time, and let them know. That way there were no secrets. I wanted honesty. So first I told my friend, and at first she seemed okay with it, until the day that she messaged me and basically broke off our 20+ year friendship and said a couple of pretty profound things to me, like, "You're adding filth and ugliness to the world." She mentioned that she didn't want our children to be near each other. And she also said something to the effect of, if my writing was pulling me away from God, then I shouldn't be doing it. Now, any Christians that might be listening, I'm sure, agree very much with her. And I actually did agree with her. She is right. If my writing was pulling me away from God, I probably shouldn't be doing it. But it was in that moment that I realized it wasn't my writing I needed to worry about, but the people who I had taken stock in and who were berating me in his name that were possibly ruining my spiritual growth. I went on and I ended up talking to, so I was the president of a local homeschool co-op. I had taken on the reins and turned it around and made an incredible website, and we were doing great things. And that was the second group of people that I decided to tell. So it was my best friend and the board members of this group. And it resulted in them voting me out of the board because I wasn't Christian enough to represent a Christian homeschool group. It was hard. It was really hard. And it had me questioning everything. Should I be writing? Should I, are their opinions valid? Because everybody's opinions are valid, right? Mm-hmm. Am I really ruining my spiritual relationship with my Heavenly Father? All these things that I went through in my life leading up to my books being published, almost losing my life, being stung by bees, and a series of other things were not near as difficult to deal with as being impacted in that way by the people close to me who I cared about.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask, and thank you for sharing this. I know it's very vulnerable, and just to qualify everybody, there's nothing against Christians in this conversation. We're just having a conversation about the consequences of, sometimes consequences or possible consequences, depending on what you're writing, what happens when you're sharing your creativity. So I want to ask you a little bit, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but can you talk a little bit more? Because I'm very woo-woo. I am very woo-woo. And so I really am curious about, how do you feel? So you said that ruining your relationship with your Heavenly Father, except for that it was the people, not the writing. How is the writing show up in your relationship with your Heavenly Father? Like, if you were able to tell people about that,
right, that
relationships, if you were able to talk to your friend and say, actually, this is how it is for me, or just another writer somewhere here who's like, mm-hmm. actually, this is how it is, and that's why it feels okay, or whatever it is. Is that okay? Am I okay to ask that?
Sure. It's still a very difficult question to answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to absolutely do my best. Because mostly I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that myself. I have still been dealing with the backlash from the Christian community locally. And, like you said a little bit ago, absolutely, this does not mean every Christian is this way. There are lots of Christians who are absolutely amazing people. And these girls that I'm talking about are amazing people as well. Mm-hmm. There's just a difference between the type of Christian I've decided I want to be through this experience versus the type of Christians that they are. And it doesn't make one wrong or one right, but there's a beauty in us being unique. So there was a point where I had to realize that it was not about them. My writing journey was not about them, and my relationship with God was not about them. It was about me and my relationship with Heavenly Father. And that's what it boils down to. It has absolutely nothing to do with what other people think about me or about my hobby, and has everything to do with my family and my relationship with my Heavenly Father. I still struggle with that on a daily basis, and I'm still trying to grow, but I do consider it a test of faith, a test of discipline, both, spiritually and just in life in general. Mm-hmm. But my writing, it's freeing and it's exciting and it's fictional for me. I have been with my husband. Ryan and I have been together since I was 16 and he was 18. We are exclusive to each other, always have been, have never been with anybody else. I don't swear in real life. Now I have a character in my book who swears all the time. All the time. But my writing doesn't determine my character as a person. And I know where my heart is, and I know that I'm following the commandments, and I know I have a good relationship with God. So,
yeah. Here's my thing, because so making myself vulnerable now. So I was raised in a very conservative Christian. I was raised LDS.
Okay.
And I'm currently living in a 300-person town that is 99% LDS, and I am not anymore. But here's what I'm going to say, just to you as a person. So not swearing, and this is what I, as a friend and person who is really as a new friend, it's easy to not swear. It's easy to not drink coffee. It's easy to not watch rated R movies. Like those are the things, those are the easy things to do, that it's easy. And then it's easy to point out when other people aren't doing them. It's really hard to treat others like you would want to be treated. It's really hard to not be judgmental. It's really hard.
Absolutely. It's human nature.
To love even when you disagree with somebody. That's really hard. But I think personally that's the more Christ-like value personally. So not to get into that so much, but I'm just telling that for you as a friend, and for anybody listening, that's what I think is the hard part. And my personal experience has, and I think lots of Christians are amazing at that. My husband is LDS, which many Christians don't think LDS are Christians, but you know what I mean? Like he is amazing at being loving and, and that kind of stuff. And there's so many that are, but I want to support you and love you. And if I could be your friend and facilitate anything with any support that you need, let me know. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I do want to say that I know a lot of LDS members, and I absolutely adore them and adore their religion. And how you mentioned what is Christ-like, a Christ-like love. That's what I want to do. That's kind of my goal as a Christian. I want to make sure that I am, and you're right, judging people judge is what it's easy to do. Very, very easy. And I want to try to make sure I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And we don't have control over anybody else. So just, if you have a good relationship with God, then that's what I say to people. I'm like, God gets to judge me. So God gets to judge me. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with God judging me. Someday he'll judge me and then we'll see. But everybody else, sorry. You're not God. Okay, this is me. Okay, we really went into something there, but I think a lot of authors and writers and people just general in their lives have an experience like that, or have something like that where they have to choose between what's true for them and what's true in the world. And it might not be your religion. It might be something else. It might be whatever it is, where you have this is what I need to do for my heart and to feel free and to be my truest self. And it might not be what everybody expects of you. And sometimes there's a cost. But so now I'm asking you, you're in the middle of it, but do you feel like it's going to be worth it?
I do not know.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I am in the middle of it, and I'm struggling with it on a daily basis. And I mean, I'd like to think so, because I've had a lot of business adventures, and this one didn't start out as a business adventure. It started out as something that was just so amazingly fun. And now it's turned into a business venture. I'm happier for it. My relationship with my husband has grown by leaps and bounds. We are so comfortable in this role as a husband and wife pseudonym. And I have been able to teach my children valuable lessons from these experiences that we've had going into it. And so I'm going to lean toward yes. I'm going to lean toward yes for that answer.
Well, it's only been a year and a half, it's only been about a year and a half. So, okay. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. It is, and especially where you're in the middle of it. It's a lot easier sometimes to share things when they happened a while back, but you're in the middle of it, and that can be really vulnerable. And I see why your fans really like you and appreciate you, because you're just very open. So, I love that. So, okay, final question. What advice would you give to other authors who want to, I don't know, what advice do you have for other authors?
I think my advice is simple, and it's just to go for it. I feel like we probably hear that a lot in our lives, to follow your dreams, believe that you can do something and then do it. But I think what's important is that you embrace the hard stuff too, and you don't let fear rule you, but you kind of appreciate the fear and utilize the outcome of facing those fears head on to learn and grow and become stronger, more empowered, and more enriched in the process. Because there's going to be a lesson in no matter what you do. And you just have to figure out what that lesson is in that moment or after the moment, if you're a little muddled by what things are, by the things that are happening.
Or a couple years after the moment.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the moment goes on, or there's a bunch of moments.
Yeah, but it is okay to embrace the negative things and learn from them. That would be my advice.
Okay. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff that keeps coming up, and the more you talk, I'm like, and this thing, but I know you have a restriction on your time, so I'm not going to go into it. Okay. Can you tell us about your book? Tell us the name, first off, of the first and second books and the series, and where people can find you.
Absolutely. So the series is called Her Reverse Genus, and the first book is titled Perfect, and the second book is titled Broken. And of course, you can find them on Amazon. I have a webpage as well. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, MeWe, BookBub, Goodreads.
Okay. Do you have links to all of those on your webpage?
I do. Okay. If you go to the website, you can access all of my social media platforms. Absolutely.
And it's AdellRyan.com. Okay. Perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This is the second half. I'm I'm a little bit tense right now.
Oh gosh.
But I still think it was really important. Thank you so much for sharing.
You are very welcome anytime.
Okay. And thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Hugs and happy authoring here at Author Like a Boss. Hey boss, you made it to the end of the episode. You're the best. Because of that, I'm going to give you a special invitation to find out more about the Author Boss Academy, where I and a bunch of really awesome authors hang out, have fun, and get stuff done. If you end up joining, tell me the secret word and you'll get a special bonus. Find out more about the Academy at authorlikeaboss.com/academy. The secret word is nipples. Hugs and happy authoring. I hope to see you soon.
If you love the Author Like a Boss podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Until next time.